All right, let's get into it. Today, we're diving deep into a drama that's happening all around us, all the time, but it's totally invisible to the naked eye. We're talking about the wild story of how flowering plants, how they reproduce. It's this incredible tale of tiny messengers, super risky journeys, and even secret chemical handshakes. So, let's get started.
This is a really great question to start with. Are we not lucky that plants reproduce sexually? And honestly, yeah, we really are. I mean, think about it. Without this whole process, we wouldn't have the stunning variety of flowers we see, right? No amazing scents, no vibrant colors, and we definitely wouldn't get the fruits and seeds that are basically the grand finale of this whole show.
So, we look at flowers and we see something beautiful, but there's so much more than that. For a plant, a flower is literally the main stage for this epic drama of reproduction. Every single petal, every bit of fragrance, it's all part of this elaborate advertisement, all designed to get the whole reproductive process started. It's the perfect setting for the story we're going to unpack. Okay, so every good drama needs its cast of characters, and our story kicks off with getting our first character ready. Let's call this one the Messenger. This little guy has a seriously dangerous journey ahead of it, and I am, of course, talking about the pollen grain. It all begins with a process that has a bit of a mouthful of a name, microsporogenesis. But don't let the name scare you. All it really means is how a plant makes its pollen. The best way to think about it is like a factory, just churning out thousands and thousands of these tiny messengers, all starting from one single mother cell. So how does this factory actually work? Well, you start with this special group of cells. It's called the sporogenous tissue. Then each of these cells goes through meiosis. That's just a special way cells divide, and it splits into a little cluster of 4. That cluster gets a name, a microspore tetrad. And then for the final step, as the anther, the part of the flower holding them, matures, these clusters just break up, releasing thousands of individual pollen grains, and each one is now ready to go on its mission. And let me tell you, these messengers are built tough. I mean, really tough. A single pollen grain is ridiculously small. We're talking just 25 to 50 micrometers across, but it is unbelievably resilient. It's got this hard outer shell called the exine, which is made from a material called sporopollenin. And get this, it's one of the toughest, most resistant organic materials known to science. It's basically a perfect little time capsule.
So just how tough are we talking? Well, how about this tough? You can store pollen for years in liquid nitrogen. That's at minus 196 degrees Celsius. It's because of this incredible resilience that we can have things like pollen banks. And those are absolutely crucial for stuff like preserving the genetic diversity of plants and for helping out with crop breeding all over the world.
And here's a fun little side effect of all that resilience. Turns out, pollen grains are just packed with nutrients. So much so that you can actually buy them as food supplements. And here's the wild part. Some people claim that eating pollen can actually boost the performance of athletes. And get this, even racehorses. Pretty crazy, right?
Okay, so our messenger, the pollen, is all prepped and ready to go. But every messenger needs a target, right? So now we're going to flip to the other side of the stage, so to speak, and see how the female part of the flower gets ready for its big arrival.
So the female reproductive organ is called the pistil, and it basically has 3 main parts. First, you've got the stigma. Think of that as the landing pad for the pollen. Then there's the style, which is like the long runway the pollen has to travel down. And finally, you have the ovary. That's the super protected inner chamber where the really precious cargo, the ovules, are kept.
Remember how the male side had microsporogenesis? Well, the female side has a similar process, but it's called megasporogenesis. Makes sense, right? This is how the female egg cell is formed. But here's where it gets interesting. This process is way more dramatic. And honestly, it's pretty ruthless.
Okay, this part is just fascinating. So a single mother cell on the female side divides, and it makes 4 potential egg cells, or megaspores. But unlike the pollen factory that's just pumping out thousands, here it's a brutal competition. Out of those 4 cells, 3 of them just give up. They degenerate and die off. Only one, just one, gets to survive and becomes the chosen one.
So what happens to that chosen one?
It grows into this, the mature embryo sac. It's this tiny, super organized little structure that holds the actual egg cell. And through this really clever bit of biological jujitsu, it ends up having 7 cells but 8 nuclei, all arranged just so. The stage is officially set. The target is prepped and waiting.
And now, it's time for the climax of the whole story. The messenger has to find the target. And this is not just a simple little trip. It's a super high-stakes mission that really depends on a whole lot of luck, perfect timing, and a bunch of outside help.
This whole journey has a name, and you've probably heard it, pollination. It's just the transfer of pollen from the anther to the stigma. But here's the catch. The pollen can't move by itself. It's not like it has little legs or wings. So to solve this problem, plants have come up with this incredible range of strategies to get the pollen where it needs to go.
So plants basically have 2 main playbooks for this. On one hand, some plants just use the elements, like wind and water. Their flowers aren't very showy or colorful, they don't have nectar, they just produce a ton of super lightweight pollen and hope for the best. It's a numbers game. But then you have the other strategy, recruiting animals to help out. And these flowers are the ones we all notice. They're big, they're colorful, they smell amazing, and they offer up tasty nectar as a reward to make sure their pollen gets a guaranteed ride.
And you won't believe the kinds of partners they've managed to recruit. Of course, you've got the usual suspects, bees, butterflies, wasps, all that, but it goes way beyond that. We're talking about birds like sunbirds and hummingbirds, and even bats. But would you believe that some primates, like lemurs, or even some rodents, and, wait for it, reptiles like geckos and lizards, have been seen doing this job? It's just an amazing example of how different species evolve together.
So, the pollen has made it. It's completed its long, risky journey and has landed on the stigma. But hold on, the drama is not over yet. There is one last, absolutely critical test it has to pass.
I mean, just think about it for a second. In a field full of different plants, that little stigma is getting showered with pollen from all over the place, right? From different species, maybe even from its own flower, which it might not want. So how in the world does it know which pollen is the right kind and which ones to reject? Well, the answer is something called the pollen-pistil interaction. This isn't just about the pollen landing there, no. It's a full-on chemical conversation. The pistil basically quizzes the pollen, checking out its chemical signature to make sure it's legit. The best way to picture it is like a secret handshake happening on a microscopic scale.
And if that secret handshake is correct, if the pollen is the right type, the pistil gives it the green light. A tiny pollen tube starts to grow, burrowing all the way down through the style, carrying the male gametes on the very last leg of their journey. Its final destination, the egg cell. And now, finally, fertilization can begin.
So when you think about it all, from making this super tough messenger to this dramatic chosen one competition, and then that final secret handshake, this whole thing is just an evolutionary masterpiece. And it's happening all the time, right in our backyards, in every park and field. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other incredible microscopic dramas like this are playing out all around us, totally hidden from view?